Yo, what's up? These are scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know, part 27. When you pass away and you were one of those people that donated your body to science, it could be used for one of three things. It could be used for medical training, it could be used for forensic research, or it could be used as a crash test dummy in cars. Back when the guillotine was being used very often, people would rush to get their heads chopped off because if they weren't one of the first ones, the blade would end up getting dull, and once the guillotine came down, their head wouldn't be fully chopped off and they would still be alive going through this painful mess. This fact makes me cringe, but for every one person on Earth, there are over 200 million insects. Well, if your mom didn't get you a dog for Christmas, I guess you can choose from the 200 million insects. There's something known as a boom-slaying snake, and its venom will cause you to bleed from every hole in your body, and I mean every single hole. There's something known as a poop bank, and you can get feces by the bottle there. That's disgusting.
Dark facts about Disney, part 1. This is one of the biggest cover-ups ever made by Disney. On December 24th, 1999, two park guests and an employee were involved in a bad accident on the sailing ship Columbia Ride. Basically, a heavy metal cleat became loose and it hit those guests and the employee. Sadly, one of the guests died and his wife was hospitalized. But Disney failed to tell the police. And when the police did arrive, Disney cleaned up the mess as quickly as possible. They even refused to let in outside medical personnel. They were scared that a death on their hands would look bad on them, and that it would frighten their guests. As a result of their actions, though, they were actually taken to court and they got some hefty fines. Make sure to like and follow for part 2. Also, you can check me out on YouTube, link in bio.
Yo, what's up? Here's some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know, part 42. Back during the Antiquity era, Spartan warriors had a dish called black soup, and it was made of boiled pig legs and blood. Sounds appetizing, doesn't it? Back between the 15 and 1800s, women were forced to wear something called a scold's bridle. It was a mask that went around your head and had a metal piece that went on your tongue to keep you from gossiping or sharing words that didn't need to be said. Supposedly, the reason you wake up right before you die in a dream is because your brain doesn't know what comes after death. I know you guys probably know this fact, but it's still just very mind-boggling to me. But if humans were to kill other humans at the same rate that they kill animals, we would be extinct in 17 days. When the Siamese twin Daisy Hilton died, her sister Violet, still attached at the hip, wasn't found for days after she died, so she was just sitting there with her dead sister's body.
Darkest cartoon fan theories that will make you rethink everything. The Rugrats theory. This theory states that all of the babies in Rugrats are not alive and are part of Angelica's imagination. Chucky and his mom were lost in a car accident. This would explain why Chaz is always a nervous wreck. Tommy was a stillborn. This would explain why Stu is always in the basement making toys for the son he never had. Phil and Lil's mom had an abortion. And since Angelica never knew the baby's gender, she imagined twins. Kimmy is Asian. Ash's coma theory. This theory states that in the first episode of Pokemon, Ash falls into a coma. And every episode since then has just been a product of his comatose dreams. This would explain why throughout all these years, he's still 10 years old. Adventure Time coma theory. Basically the same exact thing, but with Finn from Adventure Time. Also, he tried to take his own life by swallowing pills. Phineas and Ferb dark theory. Strangely, all of these theories share one thing in common. They're all the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yo, what's up? Here's some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know, part 15. In the original version of Little Red Riding Hood, instead of just the wolf eating the grandmother, it was supposed to consist of the wolf and the granddaughter eating the grandmother. Sorry, Grandma. In a survey that many commercial pilots were asked to take, 56% of them admitted to falling asleep behind the wheel. Now you know why so many people are afraid of planes. There's a respiratory disease called Onden's Curse that if you fall asleep, you could potentially die. That's why you need to stay awake for as long as you can. Some theaters actually hired priests to bless the viewers in a theater after watching the movie The Conjuring because they felt a negative presence. Yeah, it was probably a demon. The TV show Little Bill, who was made by Bill Cosby, was actually based on Bill Cosby's son, who was murdered when he was 27 while changing his tire on the side of the interstate.
Creepy facts that will give you nightmares. There are over 18 million abandoned houses in the United States, which is enough for every single homeless person to own 6 of them. There are tons of living bacteria inside of your belly button right now. During World War II, an American plane crash landed on a Japanese island. Out of the 9 men on board, 8 of them were captured and eaten, and the one man who survived was George H.W. Bush. Scaphism was one of the worst ancient torture methods ever. It consisted of covering the victim's body completely with honey and feeding them to insects, all while alive.
Yo, what's up? Here's some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know, part 14. If you ever ended up getting hit by lightning, this weird skin design called Lichtenberg figures will show up on your skin, and trust me, it does not feel good. At all. Back in ancient Rome, if you ever ended up killing somebody's dad, your punishment would be being sewn up in a sack full of a chicken, a dog, and a viper, and being thrown in the middle of the ocean so they can eat you to death. Let's hope this one doesn't happen to us because it sounds super painful, but people can actually spontaneously burst into flames. It's called spontaneous human combustion, where they just burst into a ball of flames for no apparent reason. I'm guessing you guys would probably consider this next one more weird than scary, but I'd be pretty scared if this happened to me. But men can actually lactate under very harsh circumstances. Well, I guess that means we're starting to do the breastfeeding now. Here's a weird and scary one. Britney Spears actually sold her pregnancy test on eBay for $5,000. And here's the 2 scary things about it. She sold her pregnancy test on eBay for $5,000, and someone bought her pregnancy test on eBay for $5,000.
Scary facts that will give you nightmares, part 3. First up, we could easily solve the problem of American homelessness, we're just not doing it. On average, there are 17 million vacant homes in America at any given time, and according to endhomelessness.org, there are roughly 500,000 people in the states who are homeless. So why aren't we fixing it? The math isn't mathing. Next up, humans shed skin, we know that, but we shed a lot of fucking skin. According to the World Health Organization and recent studies, the average human will shed 112 pounds of skin in their lifetime. That is fucking nasty. And lastly, what sounds like one of the most terrifying medical conditions, locked-in syndrome, exists. This condition refers to somebody being trapped in a coma-like state and being aware of it. You know you're awake and you can hear and see things, but you can't talk and you can only move your eyes. So essentially, you're not able to respond to anything. Like and follow for part 4.
Yo, what's up? Here's some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know, part 33. The Pentagon actually has a plan to combat zombies if it were to ever happen. In fact, there was a document that stated that it was in training and they used scenarios to make it look like zombie outbreaks. So if they're not worried about us eventually having a zombie apocalypse, then why do they have the training? In 2013, the law allowed a man to marry his 13-year-old adopted daughter. I guess that's where Tony Lopez needs to move next. There is a company that took the dead skin from executed convicts and used the skin for beauty products. Please don't tell me you were one of those people that bought from that company, because that's just creepy. Heroin was once used to treat people that were addicted to morphine and was supposed to help. Yeah, funny how the tables turned. Pisces are the most common zodiac signs to be linked with serial killers. That's great. I'm a Pisces. Don't worry guys, I'm not gonna murder you. Yet.
Here are some more scary facts that you probably didn't know. Until now. First up, if the sun exploded right now, you wouldn't know about it for another 8 minutes. The energy from the explosion would be traveling at the speed of light, which means it would take about 8 minutes and 20 seconds for it to travel from the sun to the earth. My question is, would we die? Like, what would happen? Next up, and this one scares the fuck out of me, 20% of children report that they hear voices. So when a child says that they have an imaginary friend, this could be the reason why they hear voices. They are seeing some shit, some paranormal activity shit. But to be honest, I remember I had an imaginary friend. So, and lastly, around the world, there are up to 40 super volcanoes that have the ability to take 1 billion lives. And with that being said, we are 24,000 years overdue for an eruption. Bitch, I am scared. We don't know when these things are gonna blow.
Here are 4 medieval medical facts that will give you physical nightmares, and they get worse as the video goes on. Oh, and it'll make you thank feck you were born in the 21st century. Up first, in my opinion, one of the worst things you could have ever done in that time is tell any doctor you have a headache. Because how they thought to cure a headache was by drilling a hole in the side of your head to release the demons. Oh, and do you think you get any anesthetic for that? No! Oh, and I should probably add that the doctors back then didn't know feck all about human anatomy. They didn't know, and they also didn't give a shit. And because of this, doctors back then really didn't care at all if they were causing their patient pain, in which I promise you would have been experiencing. Next up is the horrifying truth behind cataract eye surgery. This fact makes me want to physically cringe into the next world. Now let me tell you why. How you doing, man? All the surgeons would use a painful procedure known as needling. This is where, with zero anesthetic, the doctor will insert this needle into the side of the patient's cornea. What? Finally, you better hope nothing's wrong with your fucking teeth, or you'd have to go to the tooth man, a person who traveled with musicians to drown out the screams of his patients. Nope.
3 famous songs with terrifying backstories. Snoop Dogg's brother-in-law, Jermaine Fuller, was the singer of Peanut Butter Jelly Time. He died after an 11-hour standoff with police despite Snoop begging him to surrender. 15-year-old Jeremy Dell shot himself in the head in front of an entire class of 30 kids. His classmates felt extremely guilty for not befriending him, and his death inspired the song Jeremy by Pearl Jam. Doc Pomus of the Drifters wrote "Save the Last Dance for Me" because he was in a wheelchair due to polio and wasn't able to dance with his wife. At the wedding, he watched his friends dance with her and went home later to write the song. I've added these songs as well as many others to a playlist, and trust me, it's much different listening when you know the dark truth. New things and shit. A woman on a recent Delta Airlines flight surprised fellow passengers when she began breastfeeding her hairless cat mid-flight. A marijuana shop in Massachusetts just broke the world record for the largest pot brownie, cooking a ginormous 850-pound THC dessert. And judging by the look on these people's faces, that brownie is not the only thing that's baked. Someone just paid $7,753 for school papers graded by Elon Musk himself. And as it turns out, he was a pretty tough grader. New York firefighters have recently rescued a completely naked man who was trapped inside of a theater's bathroom wall. 23-year-old Koshan Dion Baker was just registered as a sex offender and is required to stay 100 yards from all barns and stables. Turns out he'd been sneaking into a local equestrian center and making love to the horses without their consent. Weirdest world records that will make your skin crawl. Part 6. Zion Clark was born without legs because of a rare genetic condition and dreams of becoming a multi-time Olympic champion. He recently achieved the record for the fastest man on his hands in the world. Measured at a length of 24 feet, Ayanna Williams has the female record for the longest fingernails on a pair of hands. This video shows 20-year-old Karubal Yilma from Ethiopia performing a unique talent as he attempts to achieve the record for the longest time to spray water from his mouth. He achieved the record spraying water for 56 seconds straight. This clip shows Sultan Kosin from Turkey and Chandra Dongi from Nepal, meeting for the first time in 2014. At the time, Sultan was the tallest man in the world, measuring a staggering 8 feet 2 inches, whereas Chandra was the shortest, measuring just 21.5 inches tall.
Nerdy facts about history that school probably didn't teach you. Part 19. Oscar Wilde was once quoted saying that he was addicted to giving top and said that it greatly inspired him as a writer. The first ever pregnancy test involved injecting a woman's urine directly into a female frog's skin. And if the woman was pregnant, a few hours later, the frog would lay eggs. Paul Revere would ride from Boston to Newport to cheat on his wife. No, babe, the redcoats are actually coming this time. In 1955, the KGB tried to blackmail the president of Indonesia with video footage of him making love with a Russian woman disguised as a flight attendant. However, this backfired because the president did not care and requested the tape so he could flex on his friends back home. Giving someone the finger actually dates back 2,000 years, and it used to mean that you were threatening someone with sex. So while today it means "f*** you," back then it meant "I'm going to fuck you."